Hi everyone, we are very happy to welcome you to Women@Tech YouTube channel. Women@Tech is on a mission to share career journeys of women from around the globe. And we aim to inspire and motivate women to pursue their dream career. And today we have Nayantara Srinivasan here with us. We're very happy to welcome Nayantara. Nayantara began her journey by pursuing her bachelor's in material science and engineering from the College of Engineering, Anna University. She later completed her Master of Science in Material Science and Engineering from the National University of Singapore. She is currently doing her PhD at the University of Oxford on the Department of Materials. We're very happy to welcome her. Hi,
Thank you for the opportunity.
So Nayantara, can you describe your childhood and how it had an influence on your choice of bachelor studies in material science?
Sure. So as a child, like I was extremely inquisitive and curious. Like my parents, I often, when I have conversation with my parents, they describe me as a child, like when I was just about 2 or 3 years old. I used to always ask them why, what, who, where. And the questions mainly revolved around, different kind of materials. Because, we are given this kind of toys and different stuff to play with, right? So the first question, I used to ask them is that, oh, this feels a bit different. The furniture feels a little bit hard, and this kind of toy, oh, it's plastic. Oh, it's, breaking quite quickly. So what's the difference? And at that stage, they found it quite difficult to explain to me. So this was like my first experience, as probably a child material scientist. But later on, like as I grew up, I was more interested to learn about different kind of machinery. So when we get to about 4 or 5 years old, we are taught cycling, right? So I did ask my parents, how does this cycle work? How is the gear system like in cars, etc.? So it grew more towards machines. And as a child, like when you ask, kids, what do they want to become? The first thing they want to tell you is that they want to become a scientist because they are greatly amazed by stars, space, universe. You have these books. So I was, like any other child, also deeply interested in that. My parents were really supportive. They got me different books and I used to watch videos on that. So that was like more of my childhood. And during my schooling, obviously, like we started attending labs, etc., right? Like chemistry lab, physics lab and all. And I was like very, very interested in lab related stuff more than, theory. So like I wanted to incorporate all those experiments at home, much to my parents' disgust. And it was not like, some kind of ordinary experiments. I always wanted to order stuff online and, do some kind of things. So I think I was always interested with new and innovative kind of materials. I wanted to try out something different. And then like I was deeply fascinated with chemistry. I started attending these tuitions like in 8th standard and 9th standard, and then my chemistry tuition teacher started explaining about iron and steel making process. Many of us would remember. So that was something I found extremely uh, that my attention was getting drawn towards that particular field. That was when I think it was during my 9th standard that it, like I think I had invariably made the decision to take up material science, because it was, I think, the way she explained, and I was like extremely curious, oh, what happens in this furnace? So I think that was the first stint, when I wanted to become a material science engineer.
When you decided when you said you wanted to do material science in ninth standard, were you aware that there was a field like this? Because I know most of us are aware of, electrical engineering, mechanical, some common names, but just hearing about material science was not common for me. So,
Exactly.
so how did you, figure out that whatever you liked was actually material science? Yeah.
Yes. So this is a very good question, because conventionally we are aware of chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, and not much about material science, because I think specifically in countries like India we have it integrated with mechanical engineering. So since
Okay.
I was like already drawn towards machines as well, like my focus was towards taking up mechanical engineering. But then slowly I did come up, I did speak to some of my friends and my relatives, and they did tell me, there is a branch called metallurgy. So metallurgy is something that is very popular and common. That was not, something that was totally unknown, like material science. So material science, in fact, comprises of metallurgy, nanomaterials, polymers, different, it's very diverse, like with chemistry, physics, engineering, everything. So at that point I was like quite sure that I should do something related to mechanical and metallurgy. But the actual thing about material science and engineering in fact came up only during my counseling after my 12th standard. So
Okay.
when I did go to Anna University for my counseling, I was offered like mechanical and material science. So immediately I was like, oh, material science, I've heard of metallurgy, but material science looks a bit more broader, maybe it might comprise of different subjects. And then I did inquire about it, like to a few professors who are working there, and they did tell me that I should give it a try, because that would have like different subjects based on metallurgy, steel making, nanomaterials, polymers, applications, and even mechanics of machines, and almost comprise even of different areas of mechanical engineering. So I would get benefit of both the worlds. So that's how I came to know about material science engineering, in fact.
So, what I understand is material science is a broader field which will
Yes.
comprise of all the interests.
Yeah.
So can you tell our audience like what kind of what kind of projects or what kind of courses um, did you like when you studied material science? Yeah.
Yeah. So during my material science degree, like especially during bachelor's, we had to do like two projects. One was the mini thesis and the other was thesis. And of course, we could pursue like different internships. So I wanted to try out, different things in all these internships and thesis, like rather than just focusing on one, so that I could really get to know, which subject in fact draws my passion towards. So my internships were mainly based on, some kind of failure investigation. It was broadly macroscopic, on a macroscopic level. So basically, I did my internships in Kuwait. So as we know, like in oil and gas industries, like there are a lot of pipelines and pipes, and there's like a lot of failure in that, mainly due to corrosion. So there are like different characterization techniques like SEM or other non-destructive techniques that you could use to analyze those failed samples. And then you could provide your suggestions. Like there are many things, like you could paint, or there is cathodic protection, or you could innovate new materials. That's where materials come. And yeah, so there are like different mitigation strategies for that. There are different codes and standards. So this was like my internship. So it was mainly focused on this oil and gas industries and failure investigation. My mini thesis was again a failure investigation, but it was based on gaskets, industrial based gaskets. So again, I had to perform similar kind of tests, but only thing it's like different material, right? So there was like compressibility, sealability tests, and well, this is slightly connected with what I did during my internship, but the breakthrough stuff was like during my thesis. So in my thesis, basically, that's where like my
So
professor,
were you writing a
yeah,
bachelor thesis?
is sorry. So this is my bachelor thesis.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
during bachelor thesis, like most of my friends did projects related to metallurgy.
Mhm.
But my professor, his name is actually Bala Shivananda Prabhu. So he told me, why not try something different on a nano scale? So we have some graphene. So why don't you try, this kind of 2D material? So in materials, we have something like 0D, 1D, 2D nanomaterials. So that's quite an upcoming field, and it's relatively novel and a bit newer compared to conventional metallurgical projects. So like me and one of my friends, we had to do a group project, and then she was like, yeah, why not, let's just try it. And in fact, we got very good results, and we could improve the mechanical properties of polymeric systems. And yeah, so that's where like the thesis inspired me towards doing something in the future. But of course, at that time I hadn't planned about a PhD or masters. Like I'll tell you about it maybe in a bit. But it was like way more interesting. Some things just click, and this was like something I was deeply passionate compared to the other projects that I just did before. So this is when I came to know, okay, so if I'm going to get a chance in the future, I'm going to specialize in, maybe nanomaterials or polymers or something like that, or related applications. So this is how, the journey started.
So, very nice to know. You talked about nanomaterials and how it, our audience can, choose to pursue, a career in a similar field. So,
Yes.
after you did your bachelor thesis and your internships, how did you decide for your masters in, abroad in Singapore?
Yeah.
And why did you choose National University of Singapore? Yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting question. So basically, Singapore is like a tourist spot, right? Like everyone wants to visit Singapore at least once. Like we have heard from all our friends that it's a very green city, very clean, technologically advanced. So even I had that as a child, that I want to in fact visit Singapore. And during my masters, I was in fact applying to other universities in the US like Stanford and MIT, and Singapore was in fact not in my list at all. It just came like out of the blue and unexpected. But sometimes unexpected things make the greatest impact in your life, right? So I had almost made up my plan to go to the US. I decided on going to Arizona State University. uh, but then there are some concerns about safety. So that's when like one of my friends who was pursuing their bachelor's in Singapore, I heard about their experience, and they're like, it's a wonderful university, and even the rankings, like if you check the QS World rankings, like for material science, it comes like in the top 10. So even though it's not like very popular, and it would not be the first choice for people, the first choice would be something like US. But if we do a little bit of research, we come to know, oh, so these universities are not far behind. They are in fact even uh, ranked a little bit higher than other US universities. And also Singapore is comparatively very safe for girls. Like I could vouch for that. I've been there for 2 years. So I thought, okay, why not go to Singapore then? Even my parents are happy, I'm happy, and it's very well ranked. And when I did go there, yes, it was like beyond even my expectations. It's a very beautiful university with very good peer support and very, very good, extraordinary professors. And yeah, it was just a very wonderful journey for me in Singapore.
That's very nice to know. So did you have to, learn a different language when you moved to, a new country? And how different was, the studies? Like you did material science in your bachelor's versus, pursuing material science as your master's. How different was the studies and, yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be.
So basically, shifting to Singapore, it wasn't much of a cultural shock, because like my mother tongue is Tamil. So there also you find many Indians like who speak Tamil. But in NUS, I found like at least in my class, there were few Indians, but most of the other people were Singaporeans and Chinese. So since the medium of instruction was like still English, like I didn't need to really learn a new language, but I did learn a little bit of Chinese because of my friends. And talking about the subject, like how different was the teaching style, or technically what was different. So during my bachelor's, I think the subjects were very general, and they were like more focused towards the industry, a different type of industry, metallurgical based, like steel, iron and steel plants, or oil and gas, something like that. But in Singapore, like Singapore is very famous for its electronics and semiconductor based industry, right? So most of our subjects revolved around, electronics, semiconductors. So that's when, I think some of the subjects were, in fact, relatively new. Like I didn't even hear of it during my bachelor's. So then I understood, oh, so this subject is like relatively so diverse. Like there's so much to learn. Already the bachelor's course was very diverse. This was like yet another, totally new phase of material science. So it was more focused towards, students being able to have a good employability in semicon industries, like, Micron, and yeah. So this was how it was different.
Okay. So at what point did you decide to go for a PhD right after your master's? And what was your PhD topic? Yeah.
Okay. So like, again, like I didn't have like a plan to do PhD. In fact, after my master's, I thought, okay, Singapore is a nice city. Probably if I get a job, I could pursue that. But you won't believe, like I just saw an ad about Oxford in a social networking website, and I was like, okay, let's just apply. Okay, let's just apply, and let's see. And that Oxford was the only university I, in fact, applied for my PhD, because I already got a few job offers in Singapore. So I was like, okay, in the world rankings for material science, Oxford, was always number one or number two. And when I did talk to my parents and my friends, they are like, you should always, this was the statement they literally told me. They are like, you should always dream of, you can dream the impossible, but you should also be practical towards what you're applying. So Oxford is Oxford, and then you should probably stick to your job or something. That's what like my friends and other people told me. But of course, like my father was just supportive. He's like, okay, apply, let's see what happens. And I applied, and I wasn't expecting any interview call or anything of that sort. But suddenly, like during December, or like towards the end of my master's, I did get a call from, two of the professors. And when I applied for a PhD, like they did ask me three preferences, like of the projects that I would want to pursue here, and also preferences of the supervisors. So I was, I believe in this women empowerment and women, like supporting women in tech, etc. So I wanted my supervisors to be women. So I applied to, in fact, one project which was shared by two women, and like both of them contacted me for an interview. And the interview, in fact, went very well. They just emailed me like a day before, and I didn't even get time to prepare. But it was more of, aptitude based questions, so it doesn't require much of preparation. It's just that on the spot you think, and you let them know what's your opinion on that. So I just felt they were quite impressed with that. And yeah, they were very sweet, and they were very supportive during the interview, which I really liked about them. See, they were kind, they were affectionate, but they were also very strong about, what they want and what they expect. So when you see such strong women, like you automatically get drawn, right? Okay, let's work under them, and let's see how our PhD goes under them. So I was very impressed with, like, of course, it's not about me, it's about them. But then I was also impressed with the way they conducted the interview, the
Um,
questions they asked, and, the assurance they gave me, as to how my journey would be. And then I decided, okay, so we applied here. It was just one university we got, so why don't we go and explore this? So also, like, I applied for a topic that I previously did, so that, I have more chances of getting in. Because of course we had to give, three choices, but the first choice was something else. It was related to alloys for nuclear reactors. And the second and third choice was related to the project that I did before during my thesis. So, as I presumed, they, of course, the people, they preferred uh, that we did something related to what we, have proposed before. I think that works better when we apply for a PhD, because I didn't get the first choice. So that's what I assume is the conclusion. So always, like, it's better, like, when we apply for universities, we try to have some kind of previous prior experience in that field, so that our chances of getting seen is more.
Mhm. So, what I understand is that, I mean, it was you wanted to explore something new and you thought that
Yes.
PhD might be the best option for you.
Yes.
So, was it a difficult choice once you got, can you tell a little bit more about your PhD topic? And was it a difficult choice to, to leave the job offers that you got and then, go for a PhD? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically now my project focuses on nano composites. So basically I'm working with graphene again, but it's like for a different kind of application, like more towards electronic and dielectric applications. uh, so basically some of the techniques that I'm using now, I have used it before, but then of course there are some novel and innovative stuff that I'm doing in my project as well. uh, like, about leaving the job offers, yes, like, I did feel a bit guilty about leaving it, because I did get a very good pay package, but ultimately I think it's nice to follow your passion and you know do things that gives you like satisfaction, right? So somewhere you have that voice telling inside you which path you should follow, right? So I it was a very difficult decision for me, but then something inside me told that you like to create materials, you like innovation. So we need a space to showcase our abilities. So I felt that I had a very good research capability and ability, but I needed a lab, or I needed a space to showcase this thing. So this was a wonderful opportunity for me, and I thought that at this point in my life I could go in for this decision and probably specialize and probably learn about stuff that I was earlier interested in, right? So I just left my thesis that way, but then this is a chance I could go deeper and have a better understanding of why certain things happen. And this is a wonderful, I think there is no other better place for me to get that kind of exposure than Oxford. So yeah, so it's been a unique path.
That's great to know. Can you describe any specific internship, that have also impacted, your topic choice, your career choice?
Yeah.
Um,
So about the internship, like when you do a particular thing, like it can inspire you to do more of that thing, or there could be another result outcome of that. It could be that you want to do something different to what you did. So since my internships focus like on a particular topic, we always feel that the grass on the other side is greener. So this motivated me to probably get off this path and go try something else, which is this nanomaterial stuff. So I think it's important, like even for the future youngers who are watching this, to try different things, because unless and until you don't try and explore stuff, like you won't really know which is the path you could possibly take, or what you are passionate towards. So I'm glad that I did those topics as my internship and as my mini thesis, because if I hadn't done that and just focused on this, maybe I might have got bored, or saturated, or I might not have thought about this particular thing. So it inspired me like in a different way, but
so,
it was the thesis that was the main driving factor to pursue the PhD, in fact.
You had explained about your bachelor thesis, which was,
Yes.
in graphene. So was your master thesis also along the same line,
Yes.
along with the same subject? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, my master's was in fact a coursework.
Okay.
But Singapore is again, a very nice place. Like if you are interested in research, you could always go and approach a few professors and ask them if they have some kind of opportunity for research. You could just do it side by side. So like during my bachelor's, like when I wanted to do the master's, I was like quite drawn towards industries. So I didn't have a plan of doing PhD. If not, I would have done, something like integrated masters and PhD, or just converted the masters to PhD. So I didn't have that particular plan. But then
Mhm.
again, I wanted to try something different. So I approached one particular professor in the department of chemical engineering, because materials are so pivotal in all the fields, whether you take civil construction materials or electronics, the semiconducting chips, or chemical engineering. So you can just fit in everywhere. So I approached a particular professor in chemical engineering department, and he was doing something related to biomaterials and polymers. So
Mhm.
I did a very short kind of research related to that as well, to sort of explore the anti-static properties of polymers, so that it could be like used for the pharmaceutical industries. So
Okay.
I did that for a short time, and well, it was nice, but then I didn't get the spark and the interest that I had for nanomaterials, previously. So again, it sort of led me to doing a different thing in my PhD. But then again, it's a nice thing to do something different, right? So that was on biomaterials, in fact.
Okay, that's very interesting that you
Yes.
have explored a lot of diverse subjects in material science.
Yes.
Mm. And I'm very glad that your present PhD topic, is something that you're really passionate about and you want to continue with. So what have been the major obstacles in in your career journey? Yeah.
Yes. So well, like generally when we talk of obstacles, the first thing people talk about is the family. But in my case, my parents have been like very supportive, so that's definitely not a factor for me. My friends, everyone, like they have been extremely supportive of my dreams. But of course, the society, like when any girl pursuing engineering as such, generally they do, try to create that kind of self doubt, that whether you, oh, men, they can do some things quite easily, like indirect ways of telling, men can do some things quite easily, especially mechanical engineering, and they'll be like more preferred in industries, right? So do you really want to do this? Why not pursue some uh, chemistry or biology, main sciences? Not to put them down, but then there, you have more chances of finding more lady colleagues or something. So indirect ways from the society. But as such, like generally what I have faced is that, if suppose like you are a commoner and you want to enter a field like academia, right? So if you want to do especially a PhD, the first thing that people might see, okay, this is generally, how many publications you have from your previous research. And generally, if you have contacts, like if you know a professor, then it becomes, your path becomes a little bit easier, towards going into that. Or if your parents have that background, or your relatives have that background in academia, then it becomes a bit easier for you to do something. At least there is somebody to guide. But if we are commoners, and it's like most of us, it's not just about me, and we are entering a field like for the first time, without a mentorship or without guidance, then it becomes sort of a bit difficult, because your supervisors or your mentors need to see the potential and take you. And very few people in fact support you during those times, for especially self-made people who have made their own choices. And I'm very lucky that the choice that I made during my undergrad, luckily, I'm sticking in the same career. It's not wrong to make take a different path if you're not interested. But I'm lucky enough that, I've had this sustained passion in the same field.
Mm.
And it becomes a bit difficult, like when you don't have contacts in that particular field, or you don't have publications. This may be due to some external factors. You never know the person, because if you didn't have a supportive system before, or you don't have the platform to publish, or you don't have guidance, that could be one of the reasons as well, right? So what I would like to request, potential people in the future, is that at least give students a chance, like to showcase their talent, like in the form of internships, or some kind of probationary researcher or something. Give youngsters, and especially girls, a chance to showcase their skills, and then judge them, rather than just seeing the CV and seeing you have this recommendation, or you have this publication, you just eliminate. So this is like for girls, and especially for people from developing countries, who may not have had that resources before to come up and showcase their talent. So this is like one of the obstacle that most of us face when we want to get into top ranked institutions, or top ranked industries or something. So
Mm.
I just feel that we should also see the potential and give people a chance.
I just hope some people from our audience can help us and
Yes.
give chance and see the interest of the individual, and give them an opportunity in your research lab, or um, projects that can help them include in their resume, for them to be selected for top universities. But
Yes.
in spite of all the obstacles, I believe you have still made it to the top university, and kudos to you.
Thank
So
you.
it actually gives our audience strength, saying that, seeing that you don't, even if you didn't have the support, you can still make it. And that's very important message for our audience too. um,
Definitely.
um, so were there any particular instance where you felt proud of yourself? Any particular project, or it could be any moment in your journey? Yeah.
Yes. So generally, I feel proud of myself about, all the projects that I've undertaken so far. But of course, like this is my passion, and this is where, I found a potential that I could excel. So yes, I'm proud about it. But there are some other aspects that, I feel more proud about. For example, like my journey so far, like my self-made efforts, like without much support externally, I could still handle things like with presence of mind, and even the ability to handle challenges, because I understand that some people have very supportive peer groups to help them with challenges, or difficulties or something, but not everyone might have. And I think I've face those challenges mostly alone, and I've still made it to this particular place wherever I am. So this actually, I'm not talking out of arrogance, but in fact it gives me a different level of confidence, to travel that journey alone, and to face all the challenges every day, even it could be failed experiments or anything. So the only thing that's going to motivate you is like your own ambition. So sometimes you don't have anyone to motivate, right? Only you understand your PhD topic, like nobody else, not even your supervisors might completely understand what you're doing. So you need to like motivate yourself, and that itself, every girl should be proud of. She makes it through every day, like through all the disasters, all the experimental failures, all the difficulties, the taunts, the kind of self doubt that people instill in you. Oh, can she do this? Can there are indirect comments, people don't believe in you that easily. So all these things, this journey itself makes, not only me, like most of us, like proud. And also, like a little thing is that even though like I don't have a platform or something, I do always, whenever I've got a chance or an opportunity, I've always come forward and inspired, like told other girls to also follow their dreams or their path, their journey. I have helped them in the way that I could help them. So I'm proud that more girls want to do something because I told them about it or something. Like they didn't just give up on it. So that's like a small contribution that I am making and I will make in a bigger level in the future. So that's also something I feel
I
like
guess
we all
this,
should be proud of,
shows.
supporting other women, to also progress in their life.
I guess with you joining this platform, also you are, wanting to inspire women from around the globe, and I'm sure your journey from India to Singapore to UK, the long journey of traveling and exploring, I'm sure it would inspire many girls to also go ahead and pursue a field such as material science.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
so, what's your goal at the moment? And uh, could be a short term or a long term goal. Yeah.
Sure. So, definitely, if you ask any PhD student, their goal would be to finish their PhD as soon as possible. But then, I've always wanted to have something of my own. So, something like a startup or some kind of business venture with these nanomaterials or related application in the near future. So definitely something innovative and some kind of startup. And if you ask me, like a 5 year or say 7 year plan, probably do a postdoc and have a lab of my own. And hopefully when I have a lab of my own, I would definitely take in girls and women. I would definitely prefer them. And yeah, that's like our way of contributing, right? Like back to the society, because as engineers we always look towards contributing to the society. So definitely I would want to help other people once I get there.
And in your opinion, what do you think has to be done to increase the women ratio in material science, and how do you think it can be done? Yeah.
Yeah. So compare to mechanical engineering, still material science, the ratio isn't like, actually I should not even say this, but then it's not that bad, but then we are definitely not anywhere near where it should be, like a 50-50 ratio, or even more than that. So I think like one way is to spread awareness, like by going to schools and educating them, because like you asked me this wonderful question before, right, whether I was aware of material science. No, I got to know about it quite late, right? So I think we should instill this kind of knowledge in youngsters by going and interacting with them. And we can say that I'm part of this organization called Ox Best here. So it's basically an organization, just it's the biggest women led organization here, and I'm the secretary. And we sort of promote women in science and technology. So it could be like going to school and teaching them about this different kind of branches of engineering and science, and then giving them like small experiments or giving them opportunities for internships. So there are like different ways we could probably help them, right?
Mhm.
So definitely this would. And another thing I feel which could be done is that we could probably have a waiver of tuition fees for girls, especially in engineering, because we already know the ratio is like quite down, right? How are we going to improve it? So interest is one thing, but most of the families, especially from developing countries, are not able to support. Like if students want to go abroad, of course there are scholarships, but again it's not for everyone, right? So you again have to get that GPA, that stuff. So not necessarily if a person is good in research, they should be good in academics as well, right? It's not the case always. So there could be some kind of scheme or some waiver or something for girls as such, if they are pursuing different branches of this sort. So yeah, these are some ways like we could encourage more women to take up this, because their role is very very important, like especially in branches like material science.
Okay.
Because another thing before I forget is that because women, we have the ability to create, right? So after God, we have create, and we have that core value of creation. So the same thing happens even in materials, whether it's innovation, like Marie Curie, so innovation or creation, we create new materials. So we need more women intrinsically for this kind of fields.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm sure after hearing from you, many women would want to take up this field.
I
Um,
definitely hope.
what has been your driving factor and who is your inspiration for you to keep moving forward, yeah, in your journey?
So my driving factor is, of course, like my goals and my ambitions, because I really wanted to make it big, like right from my childhood. So it's not about people validating your performance. It's about whatever you have inside you, like, you have dreamt of something. So it's those tiny baby steps that you take towards your goal, and one should feel like extremely happy and proud about that. That should be the driving factor. Like, you cannot achieve something big in a day, right? So every day it could be like small small steps, and we should learn to acknowledge that, yes, I have done great. Even if your experiment fails, so what? Unless you don't fail, you're not going to know what to do next, right? So it's all about self validation and self motivation and believing in ourselves that we can do it, irrespective of what people comment or people say. Because as women, we really like to care for other people. So it's nice to care for other people but not care about their opinions. Like, that's the thing, right? So we just need to strive towards our goal and believe ourselves. And if we think we can do something, even if other people tell it's impossible, no, it's possible. If we think it's possible, it's possible. So that's like the driving factor. And who inspires me? Yes, so as a child, like, most women would tell Kalpana Chawla, right? The space scientist, you stick her poster in your wall, you want to become like her. So the first person was, of course, our Kalpana Chawla, and then there was Marie Curie as well. So I read a lot of books about her discovery, and all that was all very, very interesting. So these two people were like my role models initially. And now, in fact, if you ask me who's my role model, obviously it's my own supervisors, because both my supervisors, like, unbiased opinion, are very great in their field. So they have made it very, very big in a male dominated subjective field. So definitely when I see them and how strong they are and how they have come up, so it gives me an inspiration every day, right? Like, to be like them. So we find our role models, like, in our own surroundings, like, as we grow older, I guess.
Definitely. And I always vouch for power of female role models in
Definitely.
our environment. And I'm really glad to hear, your driving factor and inspiration. And also, you had a very good message for, girls. Just believe in yourself and just go forward and do not pay heed to people's opinion. And I think that's a very good message.
Yes.
Um, we are very, very happy to have you today, Nayantara, and I'm hope that you also enjoyed this conversation with us. Um,
Yeah,
and
it was like great talking with you. And of course, like, your contribution and impact is immense, because you are giving us the opportunity to share our journey. And we don't have enough, many platforms as such, right? To, talk to people. And this is like an excellent medium. And I think it's really, really nice that you came up with this idea. It's not an idea that you get every day. It's a superb initiative, like, to encourage other girls to you know take up and achieve their dreams.